Here we are, yet again. It's that time, that place in the universe for the count it 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth episode of Iris of RI. I am still the host, Zycon Ebb and Flow, and today I'm sitting down with this beautiful soul, Matthew Ryan Leslie. We met, has it been like 2 or 3 weeks now, I think?
Yeah, about 2 or 3 weeks now.
2 or 3 weeks. We met at this beautiful, I like to call it a dry hippie bar, but I think they probably technically call it an elixir lounge in Sebastopol, California, called the Soft Medicine Sanctuary. He was just sitting at the little counter, and I just like walked up and saw him playing a video game that I used to play. And then we just got right into a whole little conversation. I ended up buying him was a cookie or a brownie? I think it was a cookie. And I actually didn't pay for it. I had to go back and pay for it the next day because I forgot to pay for it, but I ended up paying for it. So no crimes were committed. And got into it. He's an artist, originally photography, I believe, if I recall correctly, and then somehow kind of transitioned or translated that over eventually into sound. It's sound healing. Runs a church in San Diego, right?
Mm-hmm.
San Diego, California area, which is called, if you'd be so kind, because I don't actually know.
The Church of Sacred Sound, and it's in San Diego proper, so it's right outside of downtown.
Well, there you go. For all the interested parties who see this and are curious about it, I'll put a link in the description or in the show notes on all the other platforms. But it's a very new friendship and relationship that we are just fostering, and I will allow Matthew to take it from there if you want to add to what I've already put out.
Yeah, of course. The church has become a beautiful creation of what I've witnessed and experienced in my lifetime, being able to be shared with others. Focusing around sound, vibration, and frequency, it really embodies a new space for people to be held in their authenticity, and really represents a new perspective of sovereignty, which has really been the main focus that I've done throughout all of my artistic endeavors, I'm just super grateful to be present on this podcast and to share whatever can be shared for people to continue to learn and grow and expand.
For sure, man. Beautiful. So the fundamental first question that I like to start with all of the artists who are on here: what is art to you?
Art is a manifestation of an individual's connection to the frequency that binds all things in the universe. So a representation of an individual's relationship with that frequency. Many people might refer to that as God. Others might refer to that as love. The frequency that binds all things, that is omnipresent, infinite in its nature, what I would call art, coming forth from the heart into the body, into the nervous system, into physical action, and into what we call and identify this as physical reality. So that's what I would call art. And it could be anything, whether painting, music, poetry, writing, anything that comes forth from that space of harmonizing with the frequency that binds the universe together is what I would call art.
I haven't had anyone describe it that way yet, so that was really cool, man. I guess now I'm curious. I mean, I said it a little bit in the beginning, but what brought you to art as like a modality or a vehicle for self-expression or self-identity, I guess?
Yeah, so I think the easiest way to really convey that is in the story of my own personal journey. And originally having been born in Mobile, Alabama, in a small, relatively small town, and not very financially wealthy family, and presented the opportunity to explore photography, with it having been like a common theme and present in my family. Grandparents photographers, mom also a photographer. So took it upon myself to explore action of like hereditary expression, and like does the photography run in the bloodline, kind of mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started doing some photography to really just explore that. And people just had some comments like, hey, you got a good eye, it seems like you might. So I took those to heart, and began to explore the modality of photography as an art form. And what my art was capturing and providing an image of was authenticity of the models that I photographed, and some essence or element of their unique vibration, and like to convey a message in harmony with that. That led to the exploration of artistic nude photography in the state of Alabama. And led to an individual named Christina Litton. And she and I had some wonderful photos created, both of just pure innocence and some more explorative. And slightly after that photo shoot, about 2 weeks after that photo shoot, I had gotten word that she had passed away in her sleep from a bladder infection, and her sister had found her that morning when she returned. And so when I got that information, I immediately brought all the photos to her parents and offered them, just like, please just take them. I don't want anything for them. Just, they're yours. Very unique. She lived right next to my childhood friend's home, which was really, they knew that it was just, there was a lot of interesting interconnectedness. And what I found, now coming to see, in hindsight, what my art truly represents, and I can talk more about that later, but it is like authenticity, and like truly seeing someone for who they are, like empowering them to be in a thriving mindset, a thriving state of being. And to be able to witness my first art show being her funeral was quite unique, because all of my art was what was used to convey the story of her life and her joy, and who she was to people. And so I'm like, as an artist, witnessing in the shadows people's reactions to my art manifest the authenticity and a reflection of someone else. And so that continued by the family then offering me in compensation for the photos, her 96 Ford Explorer, Christina's 96 Ford Explorer, her vehicle. And from that moment, I just felt this intuitive call that it was time for me to leave Alabama, and began traveling, using photography to fund my travels, and exploring this question, what's your story?
Mm-hmm.
And really beginning to like identify a story with the photos that I was capturing, to truly reflect what I saw within the person, and to try to harmonize what I saw with their authenticity, and find this unique balance between my perception of someone and their perception of themselves, and try through the art of photography to provide a reflection of that beauty to them and to others. And so that has like, throughout the years of photography and travels and explorations, led to becoming a yoga teacher, and teaching acro yoga, teaching dance, having many different modalities, including that of sound healing, that allow and empower an individual to be fully awakened to their own sovereignty and personal life path, without any chains or binds from society and its conditional programming for existing the ways that is desired by, powers that be. So that's kind of my artistic journey and how it's evolved in a small amount of time.
So I'm just curious, what led you to transition from, what is it? It's not, because I've heard it broken down that there's like performative art, and I can't remember for the life of me right now. I'm gonna look back at this in the near future and be like, why couldn't I remember that word? But it's like performative art, like music or dancing or comedy, like you're in front of the crowd. And then the other word that I can't remember right now is like, I guess like I would imagine like photography or writing or like painting or sculpting. Wow, I'm just keep drawing a blank on that, but whatever that other version of art is, what led you to transition from that form of art to the sound, the sound healing, I guess?
Yeah, it's a good question. It has been a natural evolution towards it, with the desire to empower an individual to witness their own authenticity in a space of safety, you know, unconditional acceptance, unconditional love and acceptance for that person as they are, to be able to see themselves. It has led from photography to acro yoga, right? I was taught acro yoga by some little bitty girl who picked me up and tossed me around. And by doing so, I was able to see subtle nuances for micro expressions of subconscious present within that exercise. So the act of acro yoga engages trust, communication, body awareness, and those subtleties through that exercise also reflect trust issues, um, a lack of self awareness, aggression, stubbornness. All these things are very subtle, sometimes not so subtle, but they show up in those exercises. And so I began to see through teaching that, and teaching dance and learning about different forms of dance and expression, how the baseline of what it is that I offer people wasn't just in photography. That was one of the many facets that I would provide a reflection of their authenticity through an image. And these other exercises began to just develop naturally as I continued my travels and explored. So acro yoga became like an effective avenue for, relationship counseling and, helping people become aware of their communication dialogue. In layman's terms, the easiest way to express it is you're using your arm to support, right?
Mhm.
The person will often have their arm bent, and you got to straighten your arm. My arm is straight. Look at your arm. Oh, it's not straight. uh, and rarely do we have people that are saying it is straight, and it's like, okay, well, do they have a physical disability? Maybe that's as straight as they can straighten it, right? So even still, when the perspective of stubbornness might exist, there may be some hindering factor. And throughout those avenues that led to what I've developed now and as a healing practice, becoming a conscious observer, conscious observer, healing from becoming aware of yourself and aware of your own programmings, aware of conditionings, thought patterns, and perspectives that maybe didn't originate within your own reality, and empowering an individual to have what we would identify as sovereignty and reprogram themselves of their own free will, to rewrite their own story. What is your story? What has been your story? And what do you want your story to be now? So that's what has really evolved my art form to be really, and like my medium is humans, and the art form itself is in empowering an individual to see themselves and love themselves. So yeah, really focused on experiences, regardless of what they are, that do that very nature. Empower people to see themselves and love themselves, and that's been through photography, through dancing, through acro yoga, through neurolinguistic programming, through sound healing, through cacao offerings, different types of ceremonies, and the assisted facilitation of psychedelic medicine as well. So there's a lot of avenues for cultivating a space that allows one to truly be in their own authenticity, and be able to witness it, be able to witness what feels good, what doesn't feel good, and that's what my art is painting a canvas of someone knowing their truth by clearing and then and embodying love and excitement. And so like the healing practice itself has three modalities: awareness, compromise, and courage are, I feel, the three key fundaments for creating change within any human being. They must become aware of what is the hindering factor, whatever it may be, and then through that awareness come to a compromise, an understanding of what's necessary in order to achieve desired results. Something must be done. If what we have become aware of is that there is something that's not being done, something that's hindering it, there must be a solution. And we have to be open and receptive towards that solution being identified. And then from there, empowering them through life coaching, through talks or workshops, what have you, to have the courage to really step into this new form of themselves. And it really, as with many things in life, as with many artists, right, reflects aspects of my own personal journey, and stepping into this version of myself to support others stepping into this version of themselves, and then the fractal nature of the act of doing so. And many artists will have their own personal expression of life's beautiful experiences, manifest in the ways that they present their art to the world, and want others to receive it. So yeah, it's very exciting. All this is now manifested fully into the development of my production company, Echo Phi, and cultivating experiences in addition with the Church of Sacred Sound that focus on empowerment of humanity's knowledge of sound vibration and frequency being the unifying factor of us all. The language we all speak, no matter what tonality or dialect, the frequency and the sounds are what we connect with. So yeah, that's the driving mission now. It's all transformed from the original foundation of, oh, I wonder if I'm gonna be a good photographer or not.
Right,
And
right,
it's
right.
just beautiful to witness,
The only
Excuse me.
the little contrarian in my brain, the little Hayoka shaman in the back of my subconscious was like, well, except for the deaf, because they can't hear. But even they can still feel vibration, but they just don't experience it the same way that the people who can hear can. But
Indeed. And we all have our own unique perception of that sound as well. There's agreed upon data that we can say this is at a particular hertz, this, has this structure, yet we may all hear it slightly differently. And that would be the instance of, say, someone being like tone deaf, right, for that matter, and not just deaf. But yeah, every opportunity to really witness that sound can be that unifying language, right? Even if someone can't hear it, they can feel it. They'll feel it in their physical body if it's presented right. And I have a lot of people express that to me, with the didgeridoo and my facilitations, that they feel. And that happened this afternoon, actually. the sensation of the vibrational frequency kind of meeting this layer on their physical body. And then there's a moment where that kind of dissipates. It's like where a water droplet and a water droplet are like meeting each other, and there's like slight surface tension where they kind of, you know, bounce off of each other, but then all of a sudden boop, and they become one. And so this individual is referencing something that is, you know, really represents what we do, and what, you know, is offered by the didgeridoo and as my art form as a whole, vibrating at the frequency of the individual to like have that cohesive merger, and then by doing so, knowing what is present to be able to provide a reflection of them to witness and then go about their way. You know, like no one at the same time says that that reflection is them other than them. And so my goal and my vision for people is to work with them and use kind of what I reference as a puzzle piece, jigsaw puzzle, right? We're identifying these puzzle pieces that reflect aspects of one's life journey, traumas or joys, what have you, all around, and effectively identifying whether or not these pieces fit within that picture. And when we have enough pieces, the picture starts to form. We ask more specific questions, get very in depth with the, you know, is it supposed to be turned this way or this way? You know, let's find how that piece fits in. If it does, maybe it doesn't. I'll take it out, find something else, right? Really work with the individual to see themselves, right? What does that mean? It's all up to them. And once it's seen, then we can go from there. Yeah.
I was just wondering for clarity's sake, because I got a little lost in the transition from, so you're saying the person was experiencing the didgeridoo that through like compressing or the melting together of the energy from the didgeridoo and their own personal internal narrative or story, that they can then through their own integrity or own authenticity come to a better understanding of themselves and then integrate that experience into the mosaic story of their life
Yes,
that they built.
exactly. So the metaphysical aspect of a sound healing journey is oftentimes involved with astral travel, and so we cultivate a space of their own exploration and really empower them to go on their own journey in their own metaphysical, spiritual, mental spacecraft that they've cultivated for themselves, and go through the caverns of their subconscious and explore the depths of perhaps past life experiences, hereditary experiences, to really identify like their soul's personal journey and what involvement it's had over its lifetime. And so that data, right? 'Cause everything in life has data. It's one of the most valuable resources and assets in today's society. It's always been. But that data is then presented to them in that metaphysical space during the sound healing, as well as in the practice that I've cultivated and the facilitations for clients, the reflection of what that information had for them. And so that is kind of like placing someone on a journey, and they walk up to a pond and they see a reflection of themselves. So the reflection that they see is what is cultivated through sound vibrations, frequencies, clearing energies, shaking them away, and allowing their authenticity to be present, so that when they look in that pond, they see themselves. Regardless of what they might see physically, they see themselves. What does that mean? Who are they? That's
Like their
entirely up to them.
their higher self, or their like the most authentic version of themselves that they're able to come to an understanding about, I guess is what they would see, what we were hoping that they will see in the pond.
Hoping in the past, and experiential data has now shown through these experiences, this is the result people are experiencing. And so they are seeing themselves relative to their interest in seeing themselves at a deeper level. How deep do they really wish to see themselves?
Right.
That's entirely selective to the individual in that present moment. And that's why every offering and every experience can be slightly different for each person. And so that's specifically with sound healing and doing an alchemization of people's energies to be something that really brings forth a self-empowerment and being loved for who they are. Like an example being someone telling them, like in a bully type dynamic, that they are not good enough, that they're not worthy, that they don't deserve something, right? These spaces tend to allow someone the opportunity to shed free from those things and to trust that they are worthy, they are good enough, they are perfect as they are, and to empower people to strive to be better. That's evolution. That's how we grow. And so that's where the practice I developed, becoming a conscious observer, helps people take that next step. Really start to embody the life of thriving and expanding to their fullest potential. We don't tell you what that is. We just cultivate the spaces that enable you to discover it.
That's far out. I love that, man. I love that a lot. Part one, as you were explaining and going on with the story or the experience of cultivating those spaces, thought bubbled out of my subconscious that I want your perspective on. Do you think the language of sound, like the primordial or instinctual layer of our mind and spirit, translates a spiritual significant meaning beyond the conscious, culturally programmed mind into their being as they're going through their healing? Well, I guess I've seen it or experienced it in ayahuasca journeys where I feel as if there's a archetypal or like original realm of thought or emotion, or the place where quote unquote heaven, I don't know if you could describe it in that way or using those terms, but from that place that the information or the data is through the sound specifically is moved into people's beingness to allow them to facilitate as a catalyst for growth and personal development and change.
Yes. Uh, it's the idea that sound and vibration can affect somebody emotionally. Go to a movie theater and watch this incredible movie, and the sound will bring you to tears. I mean, context from the movie and the actors as well. However, the sound is the most penetrating factor, and information can be shared telepathically through frequency. The frequency that the brain emits during the neural firing of a thought can be received and detected by other parties. So the act of having a vibration, a frequency, allowing someone to really connect with themselves and understand themselves better, and to be able to convey data, and the data that I reference is that of unconditional love and acceptance through sound, through frequency. Yeah, definitely 100%. And we're kind of witnessing that be discovered more through the use of frequency to pinpoint specific emotions, just to pinpoint specific instances, to reprogram thought patterns and emotional patterns that are causing suffering for someone. So sound is really becoming, and has always been, and becoming in today's society, especially through our hands, the foundation for healing as a whole, both on a sound healing level and on more advanced scientific levels and mathematical levels for precise use of sound healing, very targeted vibrational frequencies towards cancer cells, towards cells that are not desired within the physical body. And, these things have already been discussed and shared, numerous TED Talks. So, sound is this force that can penetrate into the subconscious of an individual and, in essence, shake loose the constraints holding their authenticity at bay, whether those be from society or conditionings of upbringing through childhood, traumas ensued during a person's personal life path. These are things they are meant to learn and explore and journey through. And as humanity continues to expand, the opportunity for us to help people rewrite or see themselves through sound, it becomes more prevalent and more available, especially as more people become accepting of it and receptive to it. That also has an effect. The global consciousness receptivity to the idea that sound could empower you and shift you and enable you to thrive.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's as you added the last piece of the collective unconscious or conscious, I believe it was Carl Jung originally coined the thing or got it popularized into the collective conscious, that it's a psychological, or I think it was a psychological experiment of the hundredth monkey or 100th monkey, that you can give a group of monkeys or primates technology, and then a different group of monkeys that have no way of physically communicating are able to learn that skill much faster, or seemingly can intuit it or pick up the ability at a much higher rate. And then there's also this other part of it that I don't think it's the same experiment, different but similar scientific data, that it's like you give people a group of people pictures of like hidden faces, and however many there are hidden in the picture. I can't remember exactly how many number there were, but the first group only finds however many they find. Say it's 5 to 10, and there's 50 total. And then you give the same picture to a different group of people again, who probably could theoretically have communicated together, but you picked a different country where there's no way that there would be an overlap in the social fabric of those two groups, that the second group, and as more and more people get exposed to it, that they just become better at seeing the hidden faces. Or another one would be that as people have become better at taking IQ tests, that the average IQ has just slowly rose over the years, because the collective mind of humanity is just better at taking the test. So we are all becoming like the rising tide raises all the ships to the highest level that we're capable of achieving as a species.
Indeed, and that is happening right now with sacred geometry, with information regarding geometry and frequency. Robert Edward Grant and his team have been unveiling information and new discoveries inside of the Great Pyramid of Giza, inside the King's Chamber, that reflect the very thing you just mentioned, of a rise in consciousness and elevation in consciousness globally, collectively, allowing us to witness and recognize patterns inside of the King's Chamber that otherwise were perceived to not exist. And so new discoveries of different animals, as above, so below, the zodiacs, all inscribed in such a way inside the King's Chamber that it required the ability to perceive it, to see it in the first place. And that ability to perceive was presented due to the information and the strive of humanity to better itself. All this information is around every sacred site, and we've been staring at it forever. But it's like one of those Chinese puzzles kind of thing. You don't know how to do it until you do it, and then you go, "Oh my God, it was that easy the whole time."
Right? You're like, "Oh man, why can't I
cases,
figure it out?" That's crazy. A lot of the things that you've talked about has been about personal development, if I could say it in a way that people who aren't extremely spiritual could digest it or understand it. But I'm just curious, like what influenced you or inspired you to pursue that path in your life?
I tell people I went to the School of Life. Have you heard of it?
I have
French.
not. I,
Life. The school is
okay.
life. Yeah.
Hard knocks. Huh?
Yeah. It's people often when they desire to study something, they'll go to school and they'll pursue that life path and career, right? Mine was just to live, really be embraced in the experience of my own personal sovereignty. And through that process of living and being receptive to experiences and lessons and, learning new things, I slowly discovered my truth. But, aside from the very specific catalyst of Christina's death, the other catalyst was in Boise, Idaho, at an event that I was at where I had participated in what the experience collectively was. And through that experience on MDMA, I had a enlightening connection with what I would reference as to interstellar contact or contact with spirits or beings that I would perceive outside of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was presented the awareness of this practice I have cultivated, becoming a conscious observer, through witnessing my actions and interactions with those around me, and having this dialogue while outside of my physical body energetically with spirits present within my physical body, having these interactions with people. Very interesting dynamic for someone such as myself who has spent a large time of in the field, right, is what I would call it, of psychology, and studying humans through my travels and interactions and cultivating artistic expressions with humans, right, really trying to understand humans and their complexity and simplicity simultaneously. And through that journey really led me towards aspects of empowerment towards people. you know if you ask the right question, you get the right answer. And if someone doesn't want to give an answer, then you've asked the right question. So inevitably, action and inaction both can serve as a representation of information being present, but doesn't always mean so. Just because someone doesn't want their vehicle to be searched doesn't mean that they have substances or anything illicit within the vehicle, right? And
Right.
that's kind of the idea behind this idea of sovereignty, like the right to have your own personal data available to you. And so when I say earlier, this essence of providing a vibrational container and through these modalities, dance, otherwise, acro yoga, NLP, right, and really navigating these conversations to self-discovery, the reason why it's so effective is because we're empowering the individual with the awareness of their own personal data, like fully, and then being like, okay, what do you want to do with it?
Right.
Versus what we have seen within companies nowadays of just like, cool, hey, we have got access to your data and we're doing whatever we want with it. And, sorry, oops.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The whole fact of the matter of the movie, The Social Network. No, that's the one about Facebook specifically. I can't remember the documentary that came out on Netflix, but it was about social media companies, how they were exposing through that documentary that the product of social media companies is you and your information, and that they're using it to profit off of something that you're freely giving to them, and that they're making however many billions or trillions of dollars from it because the convenience of being able to communicate across the globe, face of the globe in an instant comes at the price of your personal sovereignty, because that's just how valuable it is. And we're unaware of that for however many decades they got it for free, but we're slowly becoming conscious of that, and are hopefully there will be the disrupting technologies and the disrupting or competing systems that come about and build parallel to and eventually surpass the tyranny of big business as it tries to squish all of the little guys who are trying to fight back and help empower people the way that you and I are.
Well, and so that's really where the element of the production company I've developed and the clientele that I work with is working with these CEOs, working with these individuals that run these big companies, and working with these companies as a whole to redevelop the business structure of empowerment and prosperity. Inevitably, that's going to be the business structure of the future, because our society will collapse otherwise. And with that knowledge, moving forward, it's kind of going to turn into either join us or don't, and the join us is help repair humanity, empower everyone, or you become the awareness of why humanity can't achieve it. And so, I don't think anybody truly wants that burden, even if they are in their own selfish reasons for wanting to be number one online retailing store, such as Amazon, right? Like, whatever those reasons are, inevitably they're going to be forced with the reflection of the power that they have and what they're choosing to do with it. A really simple example is Mr. Beast, YouTube star, 200 million subscribers now. Within an hour, 2 hours time of releasing his video, he'll have 14 million views on the video. And he has used his success and financial abundance through the systems that YouTube has generated, with the assistance of Google and the monetization, to create all sorts of philanthropy and do things that companies have, and governments and stuff have been, resourcing and discussing and talking.
Yeah.
He just pops in and is like, hey, I just built 100 wells in Africa, and hey, I just gave everyone 1,000 people prosthetics, and I just gave 1,000 people eyesight, and I just gave 1,000 people hearing, and he's not doing it to boast, yet he is doing it with the knowledge that it's going to cultivate views and generate financial abundance, and that's a necessity to continue doing it. And so it changes the dynamic. It's no longer, it's either money or heart. The money and heart are working hand in hand together, and that balance and unity, using finances in ways that empower and promote prosperity, is going to be the only driving force forward in business as we continue to evolve.
Oh yeah, the money is just a vehicle or a tool to get you to the destination, and the intention is to be of service in a way that helps everyone, not only your bottom line or your not investors, but your board or investors' pockets. Then it's getting there culturally. I never like to take any type of defeatist attitude in anything. I think that I like to say that I'm ominously optimistic that things can always prefer to live in whatever the inverse of Murphy's law is. Things could always go better and improve overnight, or that the future depends on this moment now. The future depends. I think it's on my door right there, but I can't see. It's on the other side of the door. But the future depends on what we do in the moment. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing a Mahatma Gandhi quote. But I guess sort of in the spirit of financial abundance and the motif of the starving artist, do you feel like you're still in that phase? It might be too personal. Just tell me that I don't want to talk about it. Totally open and all right with that. I got plenty of no's in my life, but starving artist phase is something feel like I'm slowly transitioning out of. I'm just curious if you find yourself there, or if you're past there, and if you have any wisdom for any of the artists or people that are listening as to how to, quote unquote, break free from the matrix, if you will.
Yeah, I am currently in a friend of mine's bus on her property in Ramona, California, and it would be what I equate to the version of a starving artist, right? And as I traveled through the 14 years of my journey of traveling since I left Alabama, I've always done it with the understanding that money would never be a hindrance, right? It would never be something that stopped me from doing something. If anything, more motivation to cultivate it so that I can move forward. And that really led to the experience of comfortability with not having significant amounts of finances, if sometimes any at all. And through that, I'm super grateful to have experienced what it was like to be in that state. And I'm just as equally excited as I continue to grow more within my companies, within the church's development, within my own personal journey, and within what I offer others, facilitating their own self discovery. I really look forward to financial abundance, and really walking the talk of empowerment and prosperity and the opportunity to do what someone like Mr. Beast has started doing and really use the outlets available to me and the resources I'm able to cultivate through supporting evolution of clients that can reciprocate what we request financially, the ability to help people really big, in really big ways, and not have to try to struggle through it, really be able to step up and pay an entire team to go and help people that are in need, and make sure that everybody's fully reciprocated, feels empowered, and even goes above and beyond the standard of what you would typically, see a company do, pay bare minimum and try to squeeze out everything from the person, pay as much as the company can support with the desire for it to grow and evolve, knowing that the investment in its employees will yield greater financial prosperity for the company as a whole. And so that's like involves more sound healing and corporate offices, getting corporate entities to really see the benefit of having their employees well taken care of. Because their whole company will benefit from it. They'll become a shining image for the new generation of business on the planet, and then take and seize the opportunities as leaders in this new perspective. And business, any good businessman or businesswoman, for that matter, would jump on that opportunity. And so it's simply a matter of clearing their field vibrationally so that they can see what is ahead and start making action to prepare for the future.
Absolutely, man. I like to slowly trying to come to the terms of the fact that I am a prophet, or am able to be prophetic in a way, but I very much resonate with that message that the tides and climates, if you will, are changing, and that people will come to the awareness that things are evolving in every present moment, that every moment is unique, every day may be the same, but everything is historic, and that we're living through, for better or worse, the best time to ever be a human being, and that we have the capability of radically changing for the better and allowing not only humanity to flourish, but all life on the face of the planet, and almost in a way returning to the foundation that our ancestors had of like respecting the natural world and living in harmony with the natural world in a way, but doing so with some type of balancing act or force with technology, because I don't believe that unless the sun explodes and has some type of EMP-like effect, I don't think the internet's going anywhere anytime soon. And
well, it's quite funny you say that, actually. So, are you familiar with the term micronova?
From the context, I could
as
pause
it sounds.
on it. Right, exactly.
It's a micronova, an explosion from a sun, what would be significantly smaller than what we would call a nova explosion. And a micronova would be akin to releasing like thousands of times the radiation that the sun currently is emitting. So solar flares aside, which already have an effect directly with our technology, aka Elon Musk's satellites for Starlink at launch for one of their launches, when released into space, had malfunctions due to the solar flares interruption with their systems. This was a while back. I think last year it was. And it's evident that humanity as a species is seeking to evolve its technology to be more universally incorporated, whereas its technology is currently specialized towards this earth, right? Like all the technology we have is like directed towards building things or moving things or altering things we find on earth.
Yeah, or information. I mean, the Moore's law and everything is getting smaller and faster every 2 years. It's twice as smaller, twice as fast, whatever the exact graph is. Yeah.
So yeah, it's like centered around like the development of the species on this planet. And so that our technology now is in the process of evolving into interplanetary technologies, right? Um, publicly.
Right.
These things have already been occurring, but publicly it's beginning to be integrated. And what that does is bring forth the awareness of and potentiality of something like a micronova happening from the sun actually destroying all of our technologies. There is a YouTube channel, Conscious Observers, that watches the sun every single day. And they watch for solar flares. They have like an alarm system that can indicate when a solar flare is coming to protect electronic devices, etc. They have also been observing consistent patterns within the sun and have identified 22,000 year cycles, specific cycles related to the sun and earth and its own transformation or cataclysmic, habitat resetting type experiences like a meteor or an ice age, etc. And then falling very specifically on these patterns of years, like 22,000 years that they have been observing and discovered. And that it would go to say, in the very near future, one of those patterns is coming to a completion. And the potentiality of a micronova from our sun is actually very prevalent. And there has been documented, what are the carvings, tablets that reference some type of like sun angel like energy or like an eclipse of the sun, and it looks to be some type of phoenix. And so there one could say there's many possibilities and potentialities. The involvement of another planet in our solar system and its gravitational field could potentially disrupt the sun and its functionality and catalyze some type of micronova occurring, which indeed would wipe all of our technology out almost instantaneously, with the exception of perhaps some military technology that we're not aware of. And that would be almost akin to the equivalent of mass chaos on the entire planet. I mean, we saw what happened just with COVID, and luckily we had our technologies to occupy us.
Mm-hmm.
But many people, had they not, imagine what would have occurred. So it's very interesting.
Yeah. For sure, man. We're getting close to the hour mark here, so I'm definitely going to leave the door open for future conversations, obviously. I'm not going to say one and done because that would be silly. But the final question that I like to end on was something that I was gifted from a different podcast I listened to, the Paul Chek, Living 4D with Paul Chek, to be specific. And it is God willing, hopefully not, that I finish hang up the phone or finish hitting the record button again and stopping the recording, if we were to cease to exist, die, this would be the final period in our life story here, what nugget of wisdom or quote or thought would you like to leave if you could beam it into the 7 billion brains or 8 billion brains that are on or out here on the earth doing their thing? What would you want to leave as your final message for humanity?
The experience of being a human is just that, an experience. And to enjoy the experience in its entirety for the simple sake that the choice was made to jump on the ride, you know? If a person is, existing in a physical body known and referred to as a human, then they made a choice as a soul or energy or spirit to be here and to enjoy the ride. Just enjoy it, participate, and allow simultaneously. And there's a divine order to all things as life continues to move forward, and just loving the aspect of having the ability to participate in it.
Oh man, I guess what arose in my consciousness as you were saying your beautiful piece was that through the highs and the lows and the suffering and the ecstasy of the joys, there is no feel all of your feelings and experience everything with humility and gratitude, because we don't have a guarantee for tomorrow, and the past is more or less immutable. And quantum physics says that it's all happening simultaneously, and that the observer effect, you can go back and change the spin of quanta or quarks or photons by observing it in the present, but that we don't have time machines. So for the present moment, don't feel the need to medicate or be avoidant of the things that are sometimes seen as icky or scary, because that's on the other side of fear. And from the darkness, you will, every time that I've gone in it and come back out of it, I've left with a fistful of jewels, and that wisdom and the growth is in the things that you're uncomfortable with.
Yeah, definitely. That's it. I used to kind of tell people, bring a little cord with you as you go into the cave, and so that you can find your way back out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's more of an option. Someone can go into the darkness, into the cave, without the desire to come back to where they entered, and there's the hope and possibility that there's another opening on the other side that might lead to something else, and but that's a risk, and so really empowering people to look forward to the opportunity to step into something that may be very unfamiliar with a greater trust, as their intuition is guiding them to do it.
All right, people, you heard it here. Trust your intuition and don't be afraid of the dark too much. That's our time, and I love and appreciate anybody who's took the time out of their day and busy lives to listen to my podcast here, our conversation. And until next time, thank you.